it's selfish if you don't share it. That if you have this gift to give the world, then you should put yourself out there because people need to know that you have this ability to help them. But he used to say, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you get good at it. Who cares if it doesn't work out? You at least gave it a try.
Today's guest is Amy Minor Fletcher, a certified coach who made the leap from VP level corporate leadership to building her own coaching practice. With a background in business development and 2 years of coaching under her belt, Amy helps professionals amplify their own career journey. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and, just learn more about you and about your coaching business. Just quickly, Amy, where are you currently in the world?
Sure. I am southwest of Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States.
Right. Oh, it's been a while since I've been up in Massachusetts. And just quickly, as we talk about your background and your business experience and your coaching experience, can you talk to us a little bit about where you came from? So you were a VP. So can you just explain a little bit of your work history and background?
Sure. Yes, coaching is a career 2.0 for me. And prior to that, I worked in a large behavioral health organization, working with families that had children with special needs or were in environments that were less optimal. So it put them at a more disadvantage or potential risk for developmental delays.
hmm How do you get into that kind of work? What was it that drew you to that?
Sure. Well, I have always been interested in psychology from my psychology class in high school. So I just went to college for that. I was trained as a licensed mental health counselor. And when I got my first job, it was in behavioral health and early intervention. And I thought that I would be working with families and children. And I really ended up having an opportunity to grow into leadership positions pretty quickly. So I spent most of the last 25 plus years in leadership roles. And that was really how I kind of found my way into that industry.
I see. And as you found yourself in these different leadership roles, how did you find out about, executive and leadership coaching?
Sure. Well, I probably thought that back then that I was doing a lot of coaching, but really what I was doing more of was mentoring and supervision. And that was really my favorite part of the role. So when the company I was working for went through the pandemic and an acquisition and merged and then restructured, I found myself looking to see what I wanted to do next.
hmm
And so I hired a career coach. I never hired a coach before. And I said, help me figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So that was kind of a journey, I guess, to help me figure out what I was most interested in doing.
Mm,
And I did some informational interviews with some executive coaches. And there was one pivotal conversation that I had where the gentleman I was speaking with was describing what an executive coach does. And it just was that aha moment that went off in my brain. And
mm.
I thought, that's exactly what I want to be doing. It was a combination of sort of my lived experience in leadership positions and my training as a licensed mental health counselor.
Yeah,
It just seemed like perfect blend
right.
of that, but with a twist. And he also told me that that I would need to do training. I would need to, he really kind of helped me understand the differences between my background and what coaching was. And he said it would take about 2 years.
Hmm.
He was exactly right. So that set me on my journey of getting the training that I needed and the credentialing that I needed and moving forward from there.
What did you find was different from your psychology background and from coaching? How would you kind of explain the differences?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think in the simplest way is that when you're working with someone in a therapeutic manner, you're focusing on the problems of past or childhood or things that are really impacting you in a negative way that you need to have some resolve to in order to move forward. And with coaching, there certainly there's elements of those things that factor in,
Mm.
just overwhelm or stress or things that impact it potentially can impact your mental health. But coaching is really looking more forward and thinking, I have choice over this is something I want to do. How do I kind of challenge myself and
Yeah.
move forward? So that's a maybe simplistic way of defining between the two. So looking back versus looking forward.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think that we're just looking for a clear and like a good understanding of like how it is different because it's you're still helping people, and so I assume there's a lot of that you pull from your history, your education as you do coaching. I could imagine that your ability to coach is more well informed because of your past. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but because you spent so many years as a psychologist and in leadership, I feel like sometimes because you have that background, maybe you have to pull away from falling back into that during your coaching, or are you able to really kind of clearly just focus on the coaching part and not fall into the psychology part?
Yeah, I feel that I'm really able to keep it separate because I've never really practiced actively as a therapist in the sense
Mm,
of my clients. I've used my skills and I've used my training.
yeah,
I mean, that's early in my career I did, but for most of the time, it's just been leadership and management and executive roles and things like that. So I also just think that because I have an understanding and because that's my training, I can recognize when coaching maybe isn't the right avenue
mm,
for someone. And there's a lot of people that have therapists and coaches.
right,
And so if something is going in the direction of where it seems like they're struggling more with things that would be in the therapeutic realm,
mhm.
then I have a fabulous network of people that I can make referrals to.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, as you have kind of made your leap into coaching the last 2 years, how has that been for you? How have you found the experience of coaching?
I love it. I feel like it's home for me. I feel like it's what I was meant to do next.
Mhm.
And I, I just, I couldn't be happier with it. It's fun. And I had actually a woman who I supervised in my prior career. I was supervising her for her um, licensed mental health counselor degree. When she completed that and she she moved out of the area, she gave me a little sign that says, "Love what you do." And that was because of a motivational speaker I had listened to early in my career. And his message was, love what you do or do something else. And it just was something that really resonated with me throughout my whole career because I really loved what I did.
Yeah.
And I'd still be doing it probably if, circumstances hadn't changed, if we hadn't been in the midst of a pandemic and whatnot.
Yeah.
But this is really just seems like it was a calling for
Hmm.
me, for my second chapter.
That's wonderful. I think that's in general kind of hard for people to find something when they're transitioning because we kind of fumble around and sometimes, especially during COVID, a lot of people it's easy to kind of just kind of into like a little like of a little bit of a hole, right? Where you're just kind of stuck. And so that you're able to find something that you really love and enjoy doing and where you're able to help people is a wonderful it's just a blessing, right? Because not everybody can find something that they love to do. As you're coaching, what aspects of the coaching that you're doing is it that you love doing?
Hmm. Great question. I love working especially with caregivers.
Hmm.
So executives that are also caregivers. So either they have young children. That's an area that I love because my prior career was working with families that had young children
Hmm.
from birth to three, and also because I have the lived experience of raising my own kids and having a big job raising a young family. And so I'm really passionate about that, as well as the so-called sandwich generation. So the individuals who are starting to care for their parents, they might have children at home. So they're sort of, carrying on two different ends. I'm, I was a lot of that inspiration and desire to help people in with caregiving for elders is
Mm.
that when and just prior to the pandemic, my dad was really declining and was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's.
Mm.
And he lives in the Midwest where I grew up. And that was a really challenging time. I hadn't been able to see him for a couple of years because of the COVID
Mhm.
restrictions, and also just working a ton in my role and having my young kids to raise. It just made it really difficult to have the balance that I wanted and to be able to give the care that I needed. So that helping people navigate that kind of the integration of those responsibilities is something that I think is there's a big need for.
Yeah. I've also having experienced that it's challenging no matter where you are in your life, watching your parents struggle in that way. And so I can empathize with that. Yeah, so my father had a major stroke when I was in college, and 50% of his body was in paralysis, and then declining mental functions. So uh, it was a very, very long road of just kind of care and recovery, and our past impacts what we want to do with our in our future, right? And we through our lived experiences we can find and understand what's important in our lives and how it is that we can apply the skills that we have or the training that we have to help others in a way that we may not have been able to help ourselves. And so I think um, that's wonderful that you're able to do that now for other people and other families.
And you can see there's almost everyone I talk to can relate or has a story that you where you can just see the impact. And one of the things that really helped me during sort of my transition in that time was I discovered on one of the tools that I use with mental fitness and positive intelligence is a program that I would put in the category of life changing because it really helped me during my dad's decline. And ultimately, when he passed last year, it was something that, to put in perspective, not only to think about how am I going to move forward and how am I going to shape my life and my career in a way that I can take care of my family and give to my loved ones
Mm.
such that it's an experience that I learned from. And so the premise of in positive intelligence is that everything can be turned into a gift or opportunity. And a lot of people will say, well, how can you turn something that's tragic, or how can you turn something that's terrible? Of course it's terrible when we lose our parents, but the being able to kind of move forward and think about, well, how can I honor him, and how can I, be there for my mom? She's a hot ticket, and she's young and spry and for her age, but when the time comes to, where she might not be able to take care of herself, I want, where I am, to be able to do that a little bit differently.
Mm.
So we learn from our experiences
Yeah.
and the things that shape us.
Yeah. Can we dive into those two programs that you're talking about, mental fitness and positive intelligence? Because
Sure.
that's brand new to me. And I'd love to understand kind of the idea behind it, and the if you could break it down, simply, so others can kind of learn and understand it as well.
Sure, sure. Well, it's a program that was founded by Shirzad Shameen, who is, positiveintelligence.com. You can get lots more information on it, but it really, in simple terms, I mean, it is very simple, but there's just so much. I could talk about it all day because it's very exciting to think about how the negative thoughts that we have and the positive thoughts that we have, and sort of what rules.
Mhm.
So they'll term saboteurs as the things that we tell ourselves when we get into kind of that spiral. So we all have, for example, the judge. So we all make judgments of ourselves, we make judgments of others, we make judgments of circumstances, and usually that is good or bad. So one of the stories that he tells in his book is about the stallion story, and it's the series of events that happens where something happens and they go tell, someone about it, like someone stole my horse, and the response is, oh, that's so terrible. And the farmer's response is, oh, that's neither good, or it's neither good nor bad. And so every encounter after that, someone either responds like, that's great, or that's terrible. And his response is it's an old fable
Mhm.
that it's neither good nor bad.
Right.
So the idea that everything can be turned into a gift or an opportunity, because whatever it is that happens leads us to choosing what comes next or something else.
Right.
So, yeah.
I see. Is there so when you're working with a client and you're talking about this positive intelligence, is there a framework or a system that you help them to kind of get over the hump, I guess? Because I assume, because they're just living your life, there's always something is going to happen at least once a week that is going to be a negative, what we would often see as negative, right? So how are how are you working with individuals to kind of help them to kind of realign the way they're thinking into this positive intelligence framework?
Sure. It's an operating system, and there's a program that's an app. There's a 6, 7, 8 week foundational program that really walks you through sort of starting with identifying what your saboteurs are. It's great because it gives you the language of, oh, that's my judge talking, or oh, that's my, stickler talking. And so it's labeling the thought as opposed to the person.
See.
So, and it's based on cognitive behavioral psychology, performance psychology, um, and there's a wheel that I can picture that I can't pull out of my brain
Mm,
at the moment. It's based in, evidence-based
I
research.
see.
So,
So is it kind of where the negative thought is coming in and we often kind of see ourselves, the negative thought is then now I'm bad or I'm not good or something like that. But you're identifying that negative thought and giving it a personifying that as you said, the saboteur or the stickler. And so then you can kind of disassociate that. Is that kind of the idea behind it?
Yeah. The idea is to catch that
Hmm.
thought and to recognize that you're having it, and then to have some self-command over it in order to move away from it. And also thinking about that, if we use that, really 20% insight and 80% muscle. If you think about going to the gym, you can't just go to the gym once a week and expect to be fit. You need to go, you need to go daily, you need to, work out routinely. So there's an actual, the mental fitness aspect is really the practice. And they have a great app where you can go and do, sort of exercises
Okay.
to, work, work your mental
I
fitness.
see.
Um, yeah.
Do they have this for kids?
That's been asked a lot there in the community, that that goes along with his program. The question is often, I've heard it asked before, about what's the youngest age
Hmm.
that you can train kids, and you get varying answers. I think the role modeling of parents
Hmm.
or caregivers, in terms of, if I say something
Yeah.
judgmental in front of my child,
Yeah.
like, what a jerk. Oh, there's my judge, they're sort of identifying that the negative thought, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, or being, very rigid or particular, or the stickler
Mhm.
about something, sort of modeling and using that language oftentimes will, depending on the age of the child, can be, a fun way to help them
Mhm.
move through so those negative thoughts.
Right. I need to take a look at that for myself and then role model for my son or sons. Yeah. No, that's great. That's wonderful. I think super, that's very important, especially in today's age where we end up judging a lot of
Mm.
ourselves and other people. And being more positive in today's age is I think something we all could use. I'd love to talk a little bit about your coaching and how you got into. So most of your coaching clients, would you say they're all in in the kind of similar niche of caregivers and in that space, or how would you, or do you work with other like in other industries or in other kind of backgrounds as well?
I have, the majority of people that I'm working with are caregivers in some capacity, either with their own kids or taking care of someone else. But I do have, some, leadership development, career change, um, clients, just depending on, what comes my way. But I really love the I really love that focus of helping people who are, I don't like to use the term work-life balance because I don't think there is such a thing. It's
Hey,
just, you know, how do you integrate life, and how do you feel like you're giving enough to work and you're giving enough at home, and
yeah,
also remembering to take care of yourself. And that's, I think that's where my Amplify framework really comes in, is looking at some of the values that have been important to me, and the common themes or the common areas where I think are important to, help people think about, that, give some strategies and some ideas around how to how to navigate that. And then, the mental fitness is just one tool that's really effective. And it actually can really be sort of a foundational place to start with, that then can kind of evolve into, whatever goals or outcomes that they've set for themselves.
Right. Could you explain a little bit of your amplified framework then, as that kind of just they all kind of correlate together and work together?
Sure, sure. All right. So amplify is, when you have to name your business, you want to come up with something great and creative, right? Well, my my initials are AMF. And so I have some friends and colleagues that used to call me AMF, because whenever there was more than one Amy, that's a way that they distinguished me from the other Amy.
Right.
And so when I was thinking about my business, I thought about it, and the word amplify came to mind, and in just thinking about the journey of life and the journey that I was on and the components that factored into that journey, that's sort of how Amplify Your Journey was born. And the A is for accountability. That's an area that is just tremendously important to me. I think that if I don't think you hold people accountable, I think you hold yourself accountable. And if you hold yourself accountable, then it eliminates a lot of challenges that people face, both personally and professionally. M is mindset. And there you go, have your saboteur and sage, but just, I mean, we all want to have a positive mindset, or the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And, there's tons and tons of work on mindset, but it really does make a difference in terms of how we see the world. Planning, parenting, purpose, the P's, there's a lot of P's that, I can speak to, but it all sort of around the planful purpose, and sort of why do you do what you do. Leadership is what executives are doing. They're leading at home, they're leading at work, they're, how to help them develop leadership skills, people who are newer in their career, and sort of what skills they need in order to be good leaders.
Yeah.
I've had the very, very best models of that, and the not so good models of that.
Right.
And then the IFY is integrity and innovation and family and you, meaning self-care. So those are the components, and how just sort of guides based on
Yeah.
what people are there for.
No, I love it. It's very holistic, and it connects kind of to you as a person. So it's like your personal branding, and then it's yeah. When it comes with for business names, I think it makes a lot of sense, and I love that it has like this kind of story component to your how people kind of know you, and it speaks, and it all just kind of connects with the work that you're doing. So that's wonderful, because I know a lot of generally people will just their their company will just be their name coaching, and so I think that separates you from the rest, because it's good branding. As you're running your business and you're doing your and as you're running your coaching business, how do you find what have you found surprising about running your coaching business versus your previous work as a VP?
That's a great question. Surprising. I mean, I think everything's a surprise. Every new day is a surprise of something. But I have a lot of experience in my prior career with program development,
Mm.
and just over time growing a program of six. When I started in the company, it was a program of 6 people, and by the time I left, I had grown my division of the company to over 350 people across 2 states, serving over 4,000 children and families with, $25 million in revenue or something like that. But it was a lot of it was organic and a lot of it was really focused on the networking and the relationships and just trying things and seeing if they work. And then when they don't work, changing course to something else. So I think it was surprising but similar because, a lot of the things that you do in an organization to build and grow, or I mean, that's what you need to do on a smaller scale. And so when you think about being a coach, you think you're going to just meet with people and help them, but you really need to be doing all of those other business development components too.
You didn't become a coach to be a marketer. But if you want to build a sustainable business, you need a system that works for you while you're coaching. Coach Ops is designed to help you go from unpredictable referrals to a reliable marketing system without it feeling pushy or salesy. If you're ready to build something systematic, visit kyber5.com/coach ops. Yeah, I see.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Uh, I think you did. I think it's super helpful then for you because you had that experience of being with a company from the start and growing it. That and I mean I just want to say that's congratulations and that's amazing because not a lot of people can say that they've accomplished what you've accomplished because that is yeah. I just want to celebrate that because that's amazing. And that I think really speaks to the kind of work that you are doing and your capabilities and your leadership to be able to grow and to build a team to that size. But yeah, your experiences doing that and pivoting, like if something doesn't work, pivot and try something else. That's something, you know, I think, because some people they'll try something, it doesn't work, and then they just like, they give up. And so being able to kind of see, okay, this doesn't work, so let's try another way, and let's try another way, and continue just to improve and grow. It's hard to do, especially when you're, as a lot of coaches are working on their own, it can be discouraging. And so I want to applaud you too, as you're building your coaching business, that, I mean, have you hit roadblocks where you've kind of like, oh, that didn't work. I gotta pivot and try something else?
sure. I think that's probably every day in some regard. And thank you for your kind words. But what I would say to a lot of, the success that I've experienced is it really I really give all the credit to having, a great team. I had fabulous leaders. I always say, like, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are, and you'll do great. And I also had a really fabulous mentor that really cultivated the culture of innovation, and it's okay to fail, and fail forward. And I think I always seem to butcher the how exactly he said it, but he used to say, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly until you get good at it, or something like that. Um that was just inspiring to, like, well, who cares if if it doesn't work out, or you at least, gave it a try. And he was always volunteering me for things like, can you go do a presentation on this or that? That's not my immediate comfort zone.
Mm,
So I think that's something that coaches have to do
mm.
all the time. It's just, you have to put yourself out of your comfort zone and sort of face the fear that is in front of you, and just do it.
Yeah. I mean, because it's either you do it or you don't take any action and then nothing changes. So, and if you're running your own business, if nothing changes, then there's also no money coming in either. So, yeah, that's not really that's really not an option, right? So you mentioned you had a mentor while you were in the business, while you were in your previous career. What about now as you become a coach? Do you also have a mentor now?
So I have, well, I would say that, like, he lives in my head, like, on a daily basis, and I will say, like, what would he say? But I think I have right now I have 3 coaches that I work with. One just more around sort of my own work-life balance. I
Mhm.
figure if that's what I'm, supporting people around, I need to make sure that I'm living that also. And that's not something that historically I was fabulous at. I
Mm.
think I worked at it really diligently, but it's really hard to do, especially for people who are caring for other people. It's really hard to prioritize time for yourself. So I have someone that I work that our coaching tends to focus more around that, and then also someone that where the focus kind of tends to be around, all right, what's next? What's the I like to call them low lift leaps. What's the next thing that I can do to you know, I keep a progress list. So if I'm feeling stuck, I can look back and say, okay, well, I look at what I accomplished here. So now what's next?
Yeah.
So just having a coach to kind of work through that is been helpful for me. And then another person is a lot of shared kind of situational learning, because when you're a coach, you're always drinking from a fire hose. There's always something more to learn. And so, we've got AI, we've got just how to differentiate yourself, how to have, develop a niche, how to set up a website, how to, all the things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, all the different hats you have to wear when you're running a business, right? And yeah, AI, something new is coming out every week, if not every day. So there's tons to continue to learn and grow from. Yeah, I just bring it up because somebody else had said, if you're a coach, you should have your own coach because you should be practicing what you preach, um, and it's hard to be, especially for if you're running your business by yourself. You know, the negative thoughts can come in very easily, and it's, you know, yeah, it's a lot of giving of yourself without anything receiving, especially when the type of work you're doing. And so you need to also get kind of have other people speak into your life.
100%. I'll never be without one again. It just is really, it's, I mean, I can't imagine it. I think if I had had a coach when I was raising my kids
Mhm.
when they were little,
Mm.
I just feel like it would have been, that would have been amazing. So a lot of times coaching sort of feels a little bit like it's a luxury, like going to the, nail salon
Mhm.
or getting a massage or whatever, is that, that's for someone, that's wants luxury services or whatnot. But I think it's not a luxury. I think it's a necessity.
Yeah. And well, so here's a question because in a lot of situations where, well, for some coaches who work, especially in corporate situations, coaching can, for some people, individuals, they think it's a remedial action where it really isn't. But have you had that kind of situation where you've worked with somebody who's like, I don't need you. Like, why do I have to do this?
Sure, sure. There's definitely, I think there's still a lot that we can do to help people understand what coaching is. Because when I, talk with people, sometimes it is, oh yeah, well, we do that. We bring a coach in when we know we're going to move someone out. And so we, want to help them, we want to help them get placement elsewhere. And it's like, wait, well, how about proactively, or
Right.
how about, in a supportive way?
Hmm.
So there's definitely, I mean, even when I first hired my own career coach, I had no idea really what I was doing. I just thought I need to kind of figure out what's next, and I need somebody to help me
Yeah.
explore that. And I remember her saying to me, Amy, you're going to do most of the work. And I thought that seems very counterintuitive, that I would be paying you and I will be doing most of the work. So there's really a need to sort of help people understand sort of the parameters of coaching and what it what it's meant to do, and to really discern between when you need a consultant, when you need a mentor, when you need a therapist, or when you need a coach.
Yeah.
So having the understanding between those
Yeah.
different roles, it really helps people figure out how to get what they need.
Well, I look at coaching um, this way. Like as I'm watching my son, he has a soccer coach, and he's a goalie, and it's kind of like if he can just play with his friends, and that's fine. But if he wants to be a goalie, and if he really wants to be good, we get him a coach so that he can actually train and develop the skills and get better in the specific areas that he needs to get better in. And in organizations, like when I was in my previous company, I told them like when they promoted me to a managerial role, I said I need to be coached. I need to have conversations regularly about what I'm doing and how to be better because I'm good at doing this thing, but you want me to now manage people, and this is very different from what I was doing before. I can do it, but I'm either gonna fumble and kind of like figure it out as I go along, or you can kind of help me and make sure I'm doing it well. And I think that's where coaching comes in, is like you have great people, and if you give them a coach, it's just going to 10x them to be better, faster at what they're doing. And I think so having a coach is a great experience, and it really allows you to accelerate your development and growth wherever you're in.
Sure, sure. And understanding what the goal is and whose goal it is important too, because if you're thinking about your son's soccer coach, is he a coach or is he a mentor?
Mm,
Because if you have a mentor, that's somebody who's walked the path before you, who's got more knowledge than you
mm,
do, who's maybe teaching you and helping you. This is how you do it, A, B, and C.
yeah.
Maybe similar in some ways to a consultant, where you hire a consultant to come in and they're going to say, here's exactly what you need to do,
Hmm.
versus a coach who's going to help you explore and find your own answers and find your own
Mm,
um, where you need to develop and 10x those skills.
yeah.
So there's, and not that there's never any, crossover, but there, if you're really truly coaching
Yeah.
someone, trusting that they have the answers within themselves, and that they're driving the bus, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's a good distinction of the difference between coaching and mentoring. It's often very, very blurry, and a lot of coaches end up functioning in both roles, right? So as you've been coaching, do you have any stories of from your clients of like growth and development that you know, you'd like to share?
Sure. Overall, it's so inspirational to just see the aha moments, to see the moments of self-awareness, of recognizing judgment, of setting boundaries, and being accountable, building habits, learning to manage overwhelm, or prioritizing self-care. I mean, there's all kinds of stories, within that, but sometimes it's just the little things
Mhm.
that make a really powerful, that make me say, wow, like this is why I do this. And one specific example is I had a client who I have an opportunity to do just a check-in if there's a need to, if they're feeling overwhelmed, they need to check in. And I had one client who had asked for a check-in, and then has a really big job. It was cut short. She said, I just got pulled into a meeting, so now I really only have like 10 minutes to check in. And when we initially got on the Zoom, she said, I actually, it was a phone call. She said, you could just hear the stress in her voice. She was completely overwhelmed. She just, and she said, I only have like a few minutes left. Can we do that grounding exercise that we did in group? And so I walked her through the just a 2-minute, experiential to sort of help her get out of her thoughts and let them go and just be. And it was so amazing how calm she was when she went back into that meeting that she got pulled into.
Mm.
That again, it's just sometimes it's the little things that make a difference, and just holding space for someone so that they can reground and regroup themselves.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation with another client who was had a lot of things going on, with his own kids, his job, his caretaking responsibilities for a loved one,
Uh,
and he sent me an email kind of telling me what was happening and going on, and I just kind of responded back, and I asked a couple questions and offered some support, not advice, but just some support. And he responded back and said, just by having the opportunity to be able to respond and have that exchange, that it helped put things in perspective
mm.
for him. So those are just two little examples that weren't even really a full coaching session, but I think they were really powerful moments for me to really realize the impact that coaching can have.
Yeah. That's and I think that's what I find is for coaches that they're not most coaches are doing it not to make money, but to really like make impact and change people's lives, which I find incredibly inspiring. And it's part of why I wanted to do this podcast as well. Is just it's fun to talk with people who are doing things that they enjoy, and to hear about these stories, right? It's just incredibly uplifting for myself. So it's great for me. Can we transition into talking a little bit about your business?
Sure.
Um, so in your business, so you've been running it for 2 years, and uh, primarily you run it as a solo coach, correct?
Yes.
And as you've been running it for these last 2 years, what have you found to be rewarding about being able to build and run your own business?
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, for sure, the clients, those aha moments that just, again, like I said, you have to love what you do, or you need to be doing something else. But I think also just I mean, the flexibility, the impact that, and the opportunity to just keep learning and growing. Sometimes I mean, having been in not the same job, but with the same organization for 25 plus years, that you can get into sometimes you hear people say, like, they hate their jobs, or they've been doing the same thing for such a long time. You can do your job in your sleep. And there were certainly aspects of my work that I felt like was just, rinse and repeat. But this is just it's a whole new world. I like to think that, you know, it's not necessarily starting over. What's the saying? You're not starting over, or you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. So you get the opportunity to do something new that is also draws on my past experience, but also just learning a ton of new things every day. And I think that's definitely the most rewarding part.
That's wonderful. And that's a great way to think about and look at it. As with any business, there's always going to be a challenge. Were there any challenges that you were kind of expecting to have to overcome?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think, the challenges that I expected, and thanks to that pivotal conversation I had, is I knew it was going to take time to build.
Mm.
It's just that's life. My former career, I didn't build that program of 6 to what it was in 2 years for sure. So I know that these things take time, and I think probably didn't realize there was as many things to learn about running a business as I did, just because running a business on your own versus running a business within an organization is different. You do have sort of that team surrounding you, and
Yeah.
when you have a marketing challenge, you go to the marketing department. If you have a financial challenge, you go to the CFO.
Yeah.
So, when you're all of those things for yourself, that's definitely, a challenge that is requires a lot of grit, resilience, patience, all the things.
Yeah. So do you have any tips or resources around what you have found to be helpful when it comes to some of those those things like marketing or finances?
Well, my tips are to ask a lot of questions and network and join groups and being involved in the coaching community, just asking, what other people have used, what have you tried, what have you learned, what's it, just that sharing is kind of the best way to learn. And when all else fails, you know hire somebody to do it for you.
Yeah. And I think that's really helpful and important, right? Because we only know there's already people who have kind of walked that road who are ahead of you. And so if you're part of a group or a network, there's going to be people who are 2, 10, 15, 20 steps ahead of you. And so I find that the coaching community is very helpful and encouraging of one another. And so, just find the group and start to ask questions and somebody's going to help you out. So that's good. Have you found anything, any systems or tools that have helped you to consistently grow your coaching practice?
Well, I mean, one of the things that I did to sort of, I guess I did currently to sort of increase my visibility is like, this is what I'm doing now is writing.
Mhm.
I do a weekly newsletter. So I write about things that I'm seeing or thinking or I'm curious about, things that I, might read about. So I think the stories are great tools.
Yeah.
I think reflecting on sort of past experiences and using those stories has helped me. Networking, I mean, there's really no other way to grow your business than networking and word of mouth and
Yeah.
just putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges for for many coaches actually is getting out there and networking and gaining visibility. I feel like I don't know from your experience as you're 2 years into it, as you've talked to other coaches, do you feel like what do you kind of think of how do other coaches feel about like marketing or trying to create visibility for themselves? Do you feel like coaches, love and are excited about that, or do they kind of just shy away from it? What have you kind of seen in your experience?
I think most coaches, and I mean, this is just my perspective, but I think most coaches despise doing that. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're an extrovert, sure, but coaches, because we like to listen to people rather than talk about ourselves. It's much more fun to listen to other people than it is to promote ourselves and say, hey,
Yeah.
look at me. So I don't know. I would love to talk to the people who love to do that because maybe they have tips for me in terms of, but I think it's like anything, the first time you do anything, it's hard and then it gets easier. It reminds me of the very first time I can remember leading my very first team meeting and going into the bathroom and feeling just sick because I had to talk in front of people and I was in my early 20s and I laugh about that now because that's just something that I would do that I feel like I could do in my sleep.
Right.
But when you fast forward to, if I think back to like the very first coaching session that I had,
Mhm.
and especially because, in the coach training program, they, you have to do it in front of, people that you don't know, it was the same thing. So it's just that moving yourself, you know, incrementally, steps at a time. And once you've done it, then it gets easier to do it. So I don't think people love it, but I think people, if you embrace the fear, you can get through it, and then it becomes not so scary anymore.
Yeah. I totally agree. That I think most coaches despise the marketing and the creating like kind of like shining the spotlight on themselves. I feel like coaches, they want to just help people and they don't want to create more attention for themselves. But on the other side, again, it's you can only help people who know that you're there to help them and that they can find you. And so that's the tension of that whole marketing piece for coaches is if you want to help people, they need to know you exist. For in order for them to know that you exist, you need to market yourself and be visible in the places that they are visiting and trafficking. And they're not going to know you're there unless you've told them that you're there. And so it's a kind of like I don't want to say it's a necessary evil because it's not evil, but it's a necessary action that more coaches I think need to take regularly to grow and build their businesses. And as you said, like writing, I think is a great way to do it because it's much safer. It creates visibility for yourself. It promotes your stories, your information, your personality, but it's not as scary as like doing a video. So
Sure, sure. You know, who has a great perspective on this is, again, from Positive Intelligence, Bill Carmody, and Jeff Staggs, who are two of the, chief development officer and chief coaching officer. I'm not sure if I get their titles exactly right, but they always say that, um, you you in terms of the business development, it's selfish if you don't share it.
yeah,
That you know, if you have this gift to give the world, then you should put yourself out there, because people need to, exactly what you're saying, that people need to know that you have this ability to help them. So it reframes it in a beautiful way to, um, not give you, so that so you can't cop out and say
yeah,
like, you know, too
yeah,
scary.
yeah. So stop being selfish and stop being greedy by hiding your gifts, and
Yes.
start creating the TikToks or YouTube shorts or Instagram reels talking about the things that you're doing and the lives that you've changed, right? I know you're still it's 2 years, right? But you know, even in the 2 years that you've had, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's considering jumping into this coaching world?
Yeah. Advice. Well, I'm a coach, so I don't advise per se, but since this isn't a coaching session, I'll oblige. um, I would say, I mean, one of the biggest lessons I think I've learned is just to give yourself time, be patient, be open, take care of yourself, because you know, if you're entering sort of this world of the unknown, and you know, aren't sure kind of what's ahead, just be kind to yourself, and give yourself time. Save, like if you're working, save so that you don't have to feel stressed about the process, or stressed about, you know, that influx of clients. And I would say get proper training,
Yeah,
you know, go to a reputable coaching program and get the training that you need, and then trust yourself and be confident, um, and make sure you have your own coach.
wonderful. Is there anything that you've learned about yourself through this process of transitioning and then becoming a coach and running your own business?
I've learned a lot about myself. I think because as a coach, you spend so much time reflecting, more so than doing. Well, doing and reflecting. Maybe it's just it's a more integrated part of what I do now. So I definitely have learned the importance of self-care, like I said before earlier, that was not, it just wasn't my, a top priority, or I always probably put myself last.
Mm.
And, there's 1,000 of those cliche terms about put on your own oxygen mask first. You can't drink from an empty cup. I mean, there's a bazillion of them, but it's true. And just to be able to start from a place of wholeness and wellness, and prioritizing that wellness is important for me. And just to, I guess, the chance to examine my own values in that way,
Mhm.
and what's most important to me, which is my family. So those, I think those are kind of the things that I've learned more about, in a deeper way through the process. So my dad said to me, one of the last things he said to me was, you have to live your life and do what makes you happy. And I actually have it, I don't have it with me at the moment, but I almost always have it with me on a coffee mug that a friend had it printed on for me. And so I like to think that my dad and I have tea every morning as I'm starting work. And I think that that's those things, when you can learn those things about yourself, it it's just makes the journey amazing.
You're gonna make me cry. Um, no, that's wonderful. I think that's so great that you could have gotten that advice from your father and that you can apply it to the work that you're doing. And I'm sure who you are and what you're doing now speaks volume to who he was and to his character as well. As we all build our businesses, we're always kind of building towards something as well. What is next for you and your coaching business? Is that something that you like to share with us?
Yeah, that's next for me. I guess I guess I would say I'm ready for anything. I'm just about done with my PCC hours. So when thinking
Congratulations.
about, next level of certification, um I actually am really looking forward to, I need to do some the mentor coaching component of that, which will be exciting.
Yeah.
And then I guess just planning to continue a mix of kind of one-on-one small group coaching sessions for now. I'd love to start a mental fitness group in the fall. I haven't done that, specifically just focused on that. So I think that's an area that I would like to do. And I've got room for a couple more clients, so I'm I guess I'm just going to keep on keeping on for now and see what opportunities there are. I'd love to do some traveling. I love the idea of being able to work from anywhere, since my kids are in college, or one of them is just out of college, so I have more flexibility to do innovative things and
Yeah.
have new experiences. So if the right project if the right project for collaboration came along, that would be great. So yeah.
Wonderful. Amy, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation today, and you almost made me cry. And yeah, I really appreciate this. It's great to learn more about you and what you're doing and how you're impacting the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, David.
Want to stop guessing and start building a marketing system that actually fills your calendar? Head to kyber5.com/coachops and let's get systematic. That's it for today's episode. I hope you grabbed something useful you can actually apply in your business. If you did, leave a comment or share it with a friend. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you next week.